Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fundamental human inventions you can think of, the calendar. I know, it seems so simple now, but its story is basically this incredible ancient detective story, a quest to measure forever, using only the world around us. So, let's get into it.
Just for a second, imagine a world with no clocks, no phones, not a single app to tell you what time it is. How did our ancestors even start to get a handle on something as huge and invisible as time? Well, the answer, believe it or not, was literally right above their heads. You see, long before any human invention, nature itself gave us all the raw materials for keeping time. The universe had this magnificent repeating clockwork, just running, powered by the earth, the moon, and the sun. The challenge wasn't seeing it. The challenge was figuring out how to read it.
And this gets to the real heart of the problem, right? On one hand, ancient people could easily see these patterns. Day follows night, the moon goes through its phases, the seasons come and go. That part was obvious. The hard part, the real trick, was turning those casual observations into exact, reliable measurements, to take the chaos of nature and give it some human order.
Okay, so let's start with the day. You might think, easy, just measure from one sunrise to the next. But the thing is, sunrise and sunset actually move around depending on the season. So for something more precise, people learned to use noon, that one moment the sun hits its absolute peak. Measuring from one noon to the next, now that gave them a much more stable and consistent unit of time.
Now the moon, that was a whole lot easier. Its cycle of repeating, from that tiny sliver to a big full disk and all the way back again, was just impossible to miss. This visible, super predictable rhythm is why the month became one of the very first ways people tracked longer chunks of time.
But the year? Oh, the year was the big one. That was the real beast. It was so much harder, because unlike the daily sun or the monthly moon, there wasn't one single obvious event that just screamed, "Hey, the year's over, start again." Measuring it took decades, even centuries of just patient, careful watching of the stars and the seasons.
And that necessity, that absolute need to know, is what brings us to ancient Egypt. For them, solving the puzzle of the year wasn't just some fun intellectual exercise. No, it was a constant, high-stakes race for survival, a literal race against a river.
To really get the pressure they were under, you have to understand the Nile. Their entire world revolved around it. The annual flood was everything. It watered the crops and brought in this rich soil that made their whole civilization possible. If you could predict its arrival, you thrived. But if you got it wrong, you were facing disaster.
So, how on earth did they solve this massive problem? Well, they looked up. They found their answer not in the river itself, but way up in the night sky, in a single, brilliant star that would unlock the secret of the year.
Okay, so to really get their genius move, we need to know this term, the heliacal rising. For a chunk of every year, the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, would actually disappear, lost in the sun's glare. The heliacal rising was the very first day it popped back up, climbing into the dawn sky just before sunrise. It was like a precise, celestial welcome back.
And this was the aha moment. For centuries, Egyptian skywatchers had noticed two incredible things happening at almost the exact same time. That star Sirius popping back up in the sky, and the Nile River beginning its annual flood down on the ground. They realized they were linked, and just like that, they had it, a reliable, cosmic alarm clock for the most important event of their entire year.
So what did? They started counting. Patiently, year after year, they counted the number of days from one reappearance of Sirius to the next. And they landed on this magic number, 365 days. For the first time in history, humanity had a truly accurate measurement for the length of a year.
This was absolutely huge. Their 365-day calendar was brilliant, it was practical, and it became a cornerstone of their civilization. But there was a catch, a tiny, persistent flaw that over the centuries was going to cause some pretty big problems.
So here's the problem. The actual time it takes for the Earth to go around the Sun isn't a neat and tidy 365 days. It's a little bit longer, by about a quarter of a day. And you might think, a quarter of a day, who cares? Well, in the world of calendars, tiny little errors have a nasty habit of adding up. Okay, check out how this tiny mistake starts to snowball. Every 4 years, their calendar would be off from the real seasons by one full day. It doesn't sound like much, but after 120 years, you're off by a whole month. Fast forward a few centuries, and the whole thing gets absurd.
You'd have summer festivals happening in the middle of spring. The very tool designed to keep life organized was slowly drifting away from reality.
But look, even with that little hiccup, which, by the way, we later fixed by adding leap years, what the Egyptians accomplished was world-changing. So let's kind of pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture, at the incredible impact this invention had, moving from the sky right down into the heart of society.
So why was this such a game changer? Because a calendar isn't just about knowing the date. It's the software for running an entire civilization. It lets you coordinate farming on a massive scale. It lets you schedule religious festivals for the whole nation to celebrate together. It lets a government organize things like collecting taxes and building projects. It creates a shared rhythm, a collective beat that holds a whole culture together.
It really all comes down to this one powerful idea. A calendar is a way of translating nature into social order. It takes these huge, impersonal cycles of the cosmos, and it turns them into a human tool for building community, for creating order. It's the bridge between the stars and the streets.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Sure, we have digital clocks and atomic precision now, but the legacy of that first calendar is still totally with us. The rising sun still sets our days, and the turning of the seasons still shapes our years. So the question for you is, what other ancient, natural rhythms are still quietly running in the background, structuring your modern life, even when you don't realize it?